Chair Raymond, before we get going with approval of the agenda and late items, I just would like to note that we do have a good number of board members in the boardroom this evening, and we are testing out our new microphones and cameras. So this hybrid meeting may be a little bit glitchy. We're going to do our best and just be patient as we work our way through finally getting back together in person. So Chair Raymond, looking for approval of the agenda and late items.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by
Facio,
thanks. I'm on my cell phone, so I'm having trouble seeing people here. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second Clute.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried.
item 3.1 is the draft Fraser Valley Regional Hospital District Board meeting minutes of December 16th, 2021.
Mover, Pranger. A seconder. Oh, I didn't catch that one.
Director
Sorry.
Hamilton seconded it, Chair Raymond.
Director Hamilton, thank you. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion's carried.
Item 4.1 is the 2022 hospital district budget assumptions. This is an information item, but I know that our CFO would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any of the directors have any questions on this item? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Moving on to reports from board directors.
Any reports from the board of directors? I would just like to inform you that and thanks Director Lum for turning her to my way. I met with the CEO of Fraser Health, Victoria Lee, stating, we really want to start a good relationship with Fraser Health. I don't think there has been one before, but we're going to start one now, and she totally agreed. We chatted about it for a while, and I suggested maybe our first meeting, hopefully will be in the boardroom, would be with her and some of her managers. And she thought that would be a good idea, so we'll be in the near future setting that meeting up. Also decided, I said that we would like to have some kind of budget from them so that we can look at what we have to budget for as it goes along, realizing that it can change. I mean, a machine can break down or anything can happen. And she has suggested that she could come up with a pretty good three-year budget plan for us. So that was exceptional. The other we discussed was having meetings more often. And I had suggested at least quarterly, if not more. And she's agreed to that as well. So I think we're off to a good start. And hopefully we can continue on with that. She realizes we play a very big role in Fraser Health, as we realize they do as well, being the provider of health services in our area. And that's about it. Any questions? Hearing none, Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you. So then we would be moving down to public question period for items relevant to the agenda. As I mentioned, we are here back in the boardroom this evening. We don't have any members of the public here in the board, but I would just ask our corporate officer, Jamie Van Ness, if we have anybody on the line from the public on Zoom.
Good evening. So as Ms. Kinnaman mentioned, we have nobody in the boardroom. We have not received any written questions. We do have one phone-in caller. This would be your opportunity to hit the raise hand function or hit *9 on your phone to indicate you have a question. And again, this is with respect to the hospital district board agenda. And it does not appear that the caller has any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Van Ness. I would also like to mention at this time that I am not going to be able to attend for the regional district board meeting, but of my alternate, Director Johnson. I have full confidence in her. We've gone over the budget before, or the agenda beforehand. So thank you all. And I guess I got to bring this meeting to a close, or
Well, first, Chair Raymond, we do need a resolution to close the meeting.
yes, okay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Director Facio, seconded by
Second, Patricia.
Director Ross. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Thank you all and have a good evening.
You too, Terry.
Take care, Terry.
Thank you.
So Chair Lum, at your leisure.
Okay, I'd like to call the open portion of the meeting of the Fraser Valley Regional District Board meeting to order. You don't know how long I've been waiting to hit this gavel because I haven't been able to do it at home in my house. So thank you for indulging me. First item, please, Ms. Kinnaman.
Looking for approval of the agenda, addenda, and late items.
So moved,
Adamson.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Facio, second by Director Adamson. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, the item carries. Next item.
3.1, we have a presentation from the Forest Enhancement Society. We have Dan and Steve here on the line.
Well, good evening. Go ahead. Thank you, everyone. My name is Dan Buffett. I'm with the Habitat Conservation Trust Foundation, and with me also is Steve Kazuki from the Forest Enhancement Society. We're here today to give you a short presentation of how both our organizations are investing in the communities here in the regional district for the health of the fish, wildlife, forests, and many other habitats here in the regional district. And this continues a presentation. I think we were here a little over a year and a half ago. And so we're happy to provide a new update for the board. I'll just share my screen and just confirm that everybody can see.
Yeah, it looks good, Dan.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So as I'd mentioned, I'm with the Habitat Conservation Trust Foundation. Our foundation, essentially, we fund conservation projects and education about BC's freshwater fish and wildlife here in BC. We are a proposal-based organization, so that means many different organizations submit proposals to HCTF. It may be the provincial government, First Nations, NGO, non-government groups, stewardship groups, and individuals. And we receive about 600 proposals each year to improve the outcomes for fish and wildlife. And we have a multi-level evaluation process to make sure that the limited funding that we have goes to those best projects. And one of the key aspects and where we invest is in the forest, and the Forest Enhancement Society is one of our key partners that really help us invest both in the wildlife and within the forest. And I'll hand it over to Steve as well for a brief intro.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. I'm Steve Kazuki with the Forest Enhancement Society of BC. We're a crown entity of the BC government. And one of the mandates that we were given was to help improve wildlife habitat in forests in British Columbia. And when we looked around, we saw that the Habitat Conservation Trust Foundation had been in operation for many years and built an incredible reputation for excellence in delivery of their projects. And that's because of the administration experience and the expertise around biology on staff and what they have access to. So it was a no-brainer for us to partner with them on wildlife projects. We have a number of other mandates and objectives, and I'll speak to that a bit later on. Thanks, Dan.
Great, thanks, Steve. And as Steve mentioned, it was really a no-brainer because for us, FESBC really brings, all the aspects of the forest landscape together. It's the science, it's the people, the expertise. And the FESBC really stepped up. And in 2016, since then they've committed over or just over $5.8 million to HCTF. And so we take that money, match it with a number of other funding to ensure that money goes to improve habitat and understanding of the wildlife within the forest areas. To give you just a couple ideas or a couple projects that we co-fund together, because we fund projects individually, but also together within the regional district. One project is the what we call the Got Bats project, and that's been a multi-year project working with a number of communities, including this regional district, reaching out to a lot of individuals and landowners on the importance of bats and protecting bat habitat, how we can coexist better with bats. Another example is a project looking at habitat and information on better improving the moose population. And although this project is just north of the regional district boundaries, that moose information does factor in onto how to better manage moose within the regional district. And finally, we didn't have another project right within the regional district that we co-fund, but it's a number of examples are small mammals such as the Vancouver Island marmot recovery, which is over on Vancouver Island. But just to give you a flavor of some of those mammals within the forest that we co-fund. When we look at the Habitat Conservation Trust Foundation, we've been around for 40 years. Last year, we celebrated our 40th anniversary. We are a nonprofit charitable foundation, and we did begin back in 1981 when a number of hunters and anglers and trappers and guide outfitters got together and they said, look, we are willing to provide an additional charge, what we call a surcharge, on top of our license, as long as that money is going to go to improve fish and wildlife in BC beyond what the core government services are. So that's how we started 40 years ago. And since then, we've brought in a number of other funding sources from the province and partners like FESBC, court awards. We bring in funding from court awards as well, and the federal government to package all this funding together and get it out and fund a number of projects. And so since we began in 81, we've funded more than $195 million in grants throughout BC. And the map there just gives you an idea of last year of the projects and their locations there. As we step down within the regional district, last year we approved $9.3 million within BC. And as we step down within the regional district, we approved a little over $500,000 for 22 projects that span the Lower Mainland, and a lot of those are within the regional district. So a couple examples is we supported a project on Chilliwack Lake where bull trout is a really important species, and to understand how to better manage that species, improve the fishing opportunities and manage that species better. There's a project ongoing there over a few years. As well as we funded a couple projects to do with white sturgeon, and you're looking at a picture of a white sturgeon, sort of a juvenile there. White sturgeon, they live to 100 years old. What we call juveniles or subadults live for 10 or 15, or they live up to 10 or 15 years, and then they become adults after that. So they're very long-lived species. And so understanding the juveniles and where that population is going, whether it's positive or negative, is really important. So there's a number of studies ongoing along the Fraser River in the regional district on that. We support a number of projects that work with youth and individuals, helping private landowners understand how they can improve habitat on their private properties with the Fraser Valley Conservancy that we fund. And we have an in-house education program where we're supporting a number of teachers and grants, which we call Go Grants, to get youth out from the schools into nature, to connect them with the nature, or actually bringing nature to the schools, helping the schools build gardens and wildlife areas on their schools as well too, and support a number of facilitators in that respect as well. And so I'll hand it back over to Steve again, and he can give you now the full picture of FESBC.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So at Forest Enhancement, we're formatted and structured in terms of our business model very similarly to HCTF, in that we rely on people like you and your constituents to step forward and propose projects. And we've had a lot of uptake all around the province. And we've been able to put the money, the funding into the hands of people who can create benefits for all British Columbians. And one of our biggest programs is around taking action on climate change. And as governments across Canada are looking at, the building codes to reduce energy consumption in buildings and reduce the use of fossil fuels in transportation, and those are very important. But in accordance with international carbon accounting standards, forestry is a very big tool, and for much of British Columbia, probably one of the biggest actions we can take. And we can do that in 3 ways. We can plant trees in areas that wouldn't otherwise be reforested by natural disasters, fires, floods, and insect epidemics. And that's important because as those trees are growing, they're absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which is a greenhouse gas. The second thing that we can do that's recognized internationally as a climate change mitigation tool is fertilizing forests, because when those trees are growing faster, they're absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere faster. And thirdly, we can reduce the emissions from burning slash piles, the waste wood left over after harvesting operations. And we can instead avoid those emissions from in the smoke, which are quite potent, not only carbon dioxide, but also nitrous oxide and methane. And we can use that wood fiber to make green energy in the form of pellets and export it to the UK and Asia, and or make electricity right here in British Columbia and export it to Alberta and California and things like that. So for all the projects that we will have completed by this coming summer, it's the equivalent of taking over 1 million cars off the road for a year. So we've made a big dent and made a big contribution, and taking local forestry activities and helping to translate that into real action on climate change. Another big program that we have, very important and near and dear, is helping communities to protect themselves and reduce the risk of wildfire. And so far we've funded over 120 communities to take those actions, from Mackenzie to Vancouver Island and all over the place. And in doing that, we've generated a lot of economic activity and economic benefits for many smaller rural communities. And of course, that filters down to all of British Columbia. Next slide, please. So this is where I am often proud to share with regional districts, because we give these presentations to many local government leaders like yourself. But in this case, we don't actually have any projects in your regional district, and I'd like to change that. I'd like to encourage you, if you have direct ideas on good ideas on how to make forests better, or you probably are very well connected and you know many people with a lot of expertise and local knowledge, because I'll emphasize again, we don't actually do anything. It's people that live in your communities. We need them to step forward and apply for funding. And we'd really like to put the money into their hands to do that. But just to give you an idea, I guess the closest context was the coastal area with the Cowichan tribes. They wanted to improve ecosystem restoration. TAN, part of the Haida Nation, they have a forest company. They wanted to accelerate the old growth attributes because of historic logging degraded the habitat along the rivers and for the black bear and the goshawk, and a project on northern Vancouver Island to help protect the community using waste wood. We'd love to do some projects in your area, and I look forward to hearing from some of you in the near future. And just one last thing, I'm very pleased. All of the money that we had received to date, $238 million, had been fully allocated to projects all around British Columbia. And so we were out of money, but with yesterday's budget, we have received another $25 million, and we're looking forward very much to doing another intake and inviting people to apply for that funding. Thanks, Dan.
Great, thanks, Stephen. And that's the end of our presentation. I'll just stop sharing the screen there. But again, as Steve mentioned, we're really happy to have the opportunity today to speak with you, because it really is, at the end of the day, we're only as good, we can provide the money, but it's the individuals and expertise that come from your region that deliver these projects. So if there's any time for questions, we'd be happy to do our best to answer.
Sure. Well, thank you, Dan, and thank you, Steve, for your presentations. I saw a couple of hands up here, so let's go first to the online folks. I saw Director Mercer. Go ahead, Director Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the second speaker, and I apologize, I missed your first or last name. You know, great initiatives obviously across the province, and this is near and dear to all of our hearts, our environment, our forested areas in the regional district. My question is that, you know, when we compare ourselves to maybe northern BC or the island, frankly, the problems there with which I'm going to speak briefly about pale in comparison to ours. Our forested areas, our rivers, our riparian areas around the rivers here in the entire Fraser Valley Regional District, quite frankly, and excuse my English, have become the toilet for the Lower Mainland partiers that are out here every single weekend on the summer, and they're actually destroying our environment. And I'm wondering if you have, when you speak of initiatives and opportunities, do you have any experience where any strategies in other places that you've funded that would have any relevance or parallels to here? Thank you.
Yeah, Hart, nothing comes to mind around managing, I guess, heavy recreational use or unauthorized use, perhaps, that you might be experiencing. I did hear in Mid-Island, they were having the same problem because there weren't enough campsites. So people were just starting to go out everywhere, and there's no outhouses and all kinds of problems. Not really up our alley to help manage that, but if you wanted to improve forests or you know, used waste wood, that's probably more, you know, where we operate. But what we do is we often find that a single project, a single dollar, can accomplish many, many things. So we have many fuel, what we call fuel, reducing the amount of woody biomass to reduce fire risk around a communications tower or a community. When we do that and we thin out the forest, we can do it in the really smart people in that know the local area. They do it in such a way that it achieves a whole bunch of other objectives at the same time. So that $1 can improve wildlife habitat. It can improve mountain biking trails or walking trails and improve reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And so we can achieve multiple things even in a single project with a single dollar. And those are the projects that we love the most.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I've got Director Horn. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair Lum. Just a quick question. The application, I've taken a quick look online already for both of your organizations and I can't find an answer. Do these applications have to come from grassroots organizations, or can they come to local governments in partnership with grassroots organizations?
Sure, I'll start first and I'll hand over to Steve. Definitely in partnership with local government will work. You know, we don't restrict it to any specific entity. So we've had co-funded, applicants on many applications, from local to provincial government, First Nations, NGOs. So definitely from HCTF, they could be a co-applicant with the regional district or local government.
Yeah, same with forest enhancement. If you look at our project list, and it's quite lengthy, but you'll see a really wide diversity of recipients. Everyone from First Nations governments to First Nations companies to commercial entities to consultants acting on behalf of local governments. The municipality of Quesnel is a recipient. the District of Houston, which is a municipality, they chose to do it through a forest consultant, as many local governments do. And the reason for that is they want to create a degree of separation to insulate their taxpayers from any financial liability or operational liability from the projects that are happening on the ground. And we're very receptive and flexible to work with your representatives. That's not to say that we don't have direct. We have regional districts who are recipients. So there's nothing preventing you or anyone else from applying for funding and being eligible.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Just cognizant of time here, so we'll move through the next questions fairly quickly. Director Engar.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Steve and Ben. Very good to hear that your coffers are full again, and I'll be contacting you shortly. Thanks. Take care.
Director Blue.
Thank you, Chair Lum. Just maybe a bit of a follow-up on Director Mercer's question about those that are coming in and destroying the forest. I was wondering if a funding application for something that might be around signage for education to help those who are coming out and using to be thoughtful and respectful about the place that they're visiting, if that's something that would possibly be considered for funding.
Yeah, if it was done in conjunction with a project that aligned with our objectives. Although whenever I hear signage, I always gives me the shivers. It would have to be a bulletproof sign before I would ever kind of get on board with signage.
Yeah, thank you. And just one other quick question, if I might, and that was around the reducing the wildfire risk. And I think with so much of our area here in particular being forested to a great degree, this is something that for me, I was really pleased to hear. I didn't pick it up so much last time that you presented, but really appreciative of that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Blue. Director Bales.
We have several areas around Lake Eric and Harrison Mills and Hemlock would be interested in forest fire issues. And so we would be very interested in getting in touch about that.
Yeah, we have funded wildfire risk reductions around a number of mountain resort municipalities like Mount Baldy and Big White and Whistler and others. Would be delighted to get an application from Hemlock Valley.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Director Bales. And so I just want to take the opportunity. There's no more questions. Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Steve, for your presentations this evening. We look forward. I'm sure you'll hear from a number of us over the next coming weeks.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kinnaman, next item.
Thank you, Chair Lum. So moving to item 4 on our agenda, which is resolutions brought forward from the February 17th, 2022 Committee of the Whole meetings. And as you'll recall, that was our full day marathon of budget sessions. There are a number of resolutions that came from those sessions, and staff are going to put them on screen now, and we'll go through them one by one.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with motion number 1, and you'll see that this is from the East Committee of the Whole, February 17th. And just checking in, Ms. Kinnaman, is this an all weighted? Okay, perfect. Okay, so you see the motion. Is there a mover and a seconder, please?
Davidson with moving a slightly different motion.
Okay, well, I don't recognize slightly different motions. You want to put an amendment on the floor and have it moved and seconded? Director Davidson, will get her in process here.
So if it makes sense to move the amendment to start off with that, I can certainly do that. So I would move the first paragraph as it is, and the second paragraph, I would just change the last sentence to say regarding community works funds reallocation. Not allocation formula, just reallocation.
Reallocation formula. Okay.
No, just reallocation.
Reallocation. Okay. Do we have a seconder to that amendment? And I
Yeah,
don't,
Adamson.
okay, Director Addison, okay. So the amendment has been moved and seconded. The question on staff report back to future electoral area services committee meeting regarding community works funds reallocation. Discussion.
Dixon.
Go ahead, Director Dixon.
I guess I'm looking for a little more explanation around the difference between reallocation and allocation formula.
Davidson?
Go ahead.
So to me, the amendment was just there for clarity, not to go in the other direction. I apologize if it's gone that way. Allocation formula, when we do the community works funds allocations every 4 years, there's a formula in place which we follow. But we're basically taking what's been allocated per that formula, and as a result of what's happening in the first paragraph, doing some reallocation essentially to balance the hit. So in that sense, it made better sense. In that context, it made better sense to me for clarity to use the word reallocation rather than focusing on allocation formula.
Thank you. I see Ms. Kinnaman, staff have a comment.
Thank you, Chair Lam. I would just like some clarification from our CFO because I do believe that there was an intention to bring the allocation formula forward to the committee anyway. So I think that this was just viewed as an opportunity to consider both simultaneously, but perhaps Ms. Lonsborough could speak to that.
Ms. Lonsborough.
Thank you. Through the chair, to Ms. Kinnaman and to the board and Director Davidson. So yes, that is correct. We had long since been looking at this allocation formula anyways, with regards to the Community Works Fund. It has historically been, the allocation has historically been on population of the electoral areas. We have new census information and it's time to look at the information and look at different options for allocations. So we wanted to look at that anyways. And with regards to the motion made at the February 17th East Committee of the Whole from Director Davidson, we thought this was a great opportunity to look at the item that was raised at that meeting at the same time. Hopefully that's helped clarify.
Thank you, Ms. Lonsborough. Director Davidson.
Fine. I wasn't aware that there was an intent to step back and look at the allocation formula as a whole. If it makes sense to combine the two, that's good. Either motion works for me. The amended motion still works. If you want to go back to the original one, I'm operating on faith that both topics would be covered. As long as both topics are covered, I'm good. So whatever motion works.
I actually, I think we're arguing semantics. I think it looks like the same thing to me. I could be wrong, but I think we'll call the question on the amendment because it's already there. And so all in favor of the amendment? And I don't see the rest of the board because we have the motions up. So Ms. Van Ness, it looks to me like this passes. But if we have to call the roll and see if there are any contrary votes to it.
Yes, we should probably do that just to make
Okay.
certain. So if you'd like, Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
we're going to call the question on the amendment. And actually, why don't we do this? What can staff just pull can you just stop the screen share and I should be able to see the majority of the board. There we go. So, and I just ask that everybody who is voting have their camera on so I can see you indicate, and I'll call the question on the amendment. All in favor? And opposed? Oh, actually, it is a weighted one. So we're going to count again. We'll call the roll.
Actually, I think, Mr. Chair, I think that when you said earlier weighted, I think we heard you say unweighted. So it's an unweighted vote.
Oh, this
That's
is an
correct.
unweighted, so
That's
it's a simple
correct.
majority.
yes.
I still can't tell from this screen unless you guys can.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like, we can just do a quick roll call
Quick
just to be
count.
certain.
Yeah.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. The motion is just the motion. There is no motion that was on the floor and then. an
Sorry, the
amendment. So
amendment.
there's just a motion with that edited language for clarity, right?
That's correct.
So there's only one vote on this one is unless it fails, is my understanding.
Yeah,
Right.
I think you're correct. Yeah. I got confused with the amendment. We just introduced the motion that amended. Okay, we're gonna call it again. A question on the motion. All in favor?
Chair, I'm not clear what we're voting on. We're voting on the change.
We're
Change
voting
or
on the motion that's as it was changed by Director Davidson. So striking
I don't
formula
see that.
and changing allocation to reallocation. Okay, in favor, keep your hands up high so we can see them, please. And opposed? Yeah, the motion fails. Okay, so we have no motion on the floor right now. Would somebody like to introduce?
Mr. Chair, I'll move the motion as it was expressed in the recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? We can put that screen back up. Thank you.
Engar, second.
Thank you. Seconded by Director Engar. Discussion on the motion.
Dixon.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I can't see anybody right now, but I just wanted to take this opportunity. I've had a lot of questions about this, and I'm happy to support it tonight as it is. But I really just wanted to thank, in particular, our CFO, Ms. Kelly Lounsber, for answering so many questions that I've had and providing all of us East directors with a lot of really helpful information. So thank you for that. It's just I appreciate it from somebody that's trying to understand budgets. It made a huge difference. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Dixon. Other comments, questions from directors on the motion?
Davidson?
Go ahead, Director Davidson.
Right. So the intent of the second paragraph and the discussion that happened before at the committee of the whole, was that the first paragraph essentially represents an unequal draw of COVID grant and aid funds from the various electoral areas that would be funding this. So my original intention was to ensure that there'd be equity, and it's nothing to do with demographic changes, population changes. It's just to do with how who's got COVID grant and aid funds left. And so when we're taking all of them and using them to fund to help with tax requisition hits, it's impacting one area more than another. So that was the clarity I was trying to get back into this, and it seems to have gone to more of a switch to something else, focusing on the broader formula that we use every term essentially. So I'm quite struggling with this at this point. I'm not really sure what's intended, and I'm looking for some assurance from staff that both subjects would be covered in that meeting, because if not, I can't support the motion as it's written. Thank you.
Ms. Kinnaman.
Through the chair to Director Davidson, absolutely both subjects would be covered in that future meeting. Obviously, we can't guarantee what the ultimate decision and vote would be on that matter. However, the intention is to bring both the discussion about equity arising from the previous clause as well as the overall formula.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman. I'll support the motion.
Other discussion? Hearing none. You ready for the question? All in favor? And opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
So the next is another motion from our committee of the whole. Staff will put that motion up on screen. There we go.
Thank you. Do you have a mover and a seconder?
Move Dixon.
Seconded, it's moved by Director Dixon, seconded by
Stewart.
Director Stobart. Discussion on the motion. Director Pranger,
Could I speak to that motion, please?
please.
Each search and rescue is funded separately, not by everyone in the whole Fraser Valley Regional District Board. For example, Kent Harrison Search and Rescue is funded by Area C, the District of Kent, and the Village of Harrison Hot Springs. Hope is funded by Area A, B, and Hope. Therefore, each of these are specific to each region. And presently, the Kent Harrison Fleet Insurance is covered specifically by a grant from the District of Kent. And we are asking that it be shared on a per capita basis with Harrison Hot Springs and Area C, which would mean the $10,000 grant, which was now supplied by Kent, would be 44% from Kent, 34.4% from Area C, and 21.4% from Harrison Hot Springs. And we feel that this is a fair distribution of the cost and would like to see this supported by the board.
Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you, Chair Lum. So I believe what Director Pranger is asking the board is to not support this motion that is on the floor. And my understanding is that she would be bringing forward a new motion to support the request for $10,000, which would be funded from those three areas. And I just looked to our CFO just to confirm Director Pranger's comments.
Thank you through the chair to Director Pranger and the board. Yes, this is correct. Director Pranger is correct. When the motions were brought forward to the committee of the whole, we had presented the option to look at the fleet insurance for Kent, and questions had been raised about doing the same for other jurisdictions. But Director Pranger is quite correct in the allocations. They are per the bylaw, and if the board wanted to support that motion to allow the fleet insurance to be covered through this requisition, it would be absorbed through, not absorbed, but it would be part of the requisition through the District of Kent, Area C, and Harrison Hot Springs. So Director Pranger is correct. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion that's on the table, and we'll call the question on that and then have an opportunity for Director Pranger to bring forward an alternate motion. But I'll just, it looks like there's a little bit more discussion. Is it Director Adamson? You have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Through the chair, if there's somebody lost or search and rescue has to go out to Area C, is there a mission one that comes, or is it Kent that goes? I just don't know who services what area.
Kent?
Kent will go? Okay.
Go.
Sorry, Director Adamson, I'm unaware of who would go. I think it might be even situational depending on who can arrive on site the fastest and who can get there first. So I don't know that we can answer that with 100%.
The reason I'm asking is like Mission already getting some money to cover C, or like, I'm just curious.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Director Mercer. Actually, just one sec, Director Mercer. I saw Director Horn had his light on just prior, so I'll get Director Horn and then we'll go to you, Director Mercer.
Thank you. Speaking first to Director Adamson's question, I think like our fire departments, we have essentially mutual aid agreements. When we need to help each other, we help each other. So Mission obviously has to extend into our local electoral areas, including also even into Metro at times. I think just speaking contrary to the motion, I'll be won't be supporting the motion as it's expressed because I think it simply was the fact that we didn't have information on our workshopping day. And so I'd like to hear Director Pranger's motion come forward.
Okay, I'm just gonna check with staff here, just hold for 1 second, Commissioner. So the motion that's on the table is that we not support the allocation. Does that prevent us from entertaining a motion from Director Pranger essentially supporting a motion? Or is it different?
So, Mr. Chair, so as the motion has a mover and a seconder, it now belongs to the board. So
So it
we
has
have
to-
two options. We can either, if we can have unanimous support to rescind or take away the motion, we can do that. If everybody is unanimously in support of that, that might be the cleanest option rather than voting this down and then reintroducing a new motion.
Yeah, I just think it's two motions that I think we can't deal with. I just think it's better if we rescind. But I'll hear Director Mercer, and then we need a motion to rescind. Is that correct?
Yes,
And we have to vote on it.
the proper terminology is not coming to me at the moment, but yes, we need a
Withdrawal.
unanimous, yes, unanimous support.
Okay, thank you. Director Mercer, go ahead.
Yeah, just very quickly, trying to extrapolate and confirm who attends what is kind of a bad rabbit hole to go down. Each of the teams in British Columbia are certified for certain skill sets. So for example, if it was an open water rescue in Harrison, it would be Harrison. Some of the other teams may not be qualified to do it, even if it's in their own area. And that's why generally that's not asked. Which speaks to Director Horn's comment about mutual aid. That's actually why it exists. Not all teams are actually qualified to do each and every type of rescue for the calls they get.
Thank you, Director Mercer. Okay, so I don't see any other comments on this motion, so I'm looking for a motion to withdraw the motion that's currently on the floor. It's moved by Director Mercer, seconded by Director Adamson. No discussion on a withdrawal? I don't believe so. It doesn't look like any. I'll call the question on withdrawal. All in favor? Any opposed? Passes. The motion is withdrawn. Director Pranger.
So the motion that I would like to present is that they support Kent's request, that the board supports Kent's request for the allocation for the three jurisdictions to support Kent Harrison Search and Rescue's fleet insurance
For the $10,000.
for the $10,000 amount.
Thank you. Okay. There's a seconder on that. Director Mercer seconds. Discussion on the motion. We're talked out on it. Everybody's good. Call the question. All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Motion carries. Thank you. Testing me tonight.
So Chair Long, now we've got motion number 3 before the board.
Why not? All right. So directors, you've seen the motion before you. Is there a mover and a seconder, please? It's moved by Director Horn, seconded by Director Pranger. Discussion. We're good? Don't see any hands. All right, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item.
Thank you, Chair Lum. So item 5.1 is the draft Fraser Valley Regional District Board meeting minutes of January 27th, 2022.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Adamson. Discussion. Nope. Seeing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries.
Item 6 is committee and commission minutes for information and matters arising. Of course, these are information items, but if anyone wanted to separate them, we'd be happy to discuss.
Thank you. Questions on the information items? Nope, don't see any. Next item.
7.1, we have the 2022 LMLGA UBCM resolutions. There's a motion for your consideration.
Thank you. And there's,
Move, Adamson.
we're doing them together. Oh, yeah, sorry, 2 resolutions, but 1 motion, correct?
That's
Good.
correct.
Okay, it's moved by Director Ross, seconded by Director Adamson. Discussion. Yes, Director Facio.
Mr. Chairman, did we not receive a letter in regards to the first part of this?
We did receive a correspondence from Mr. Farnworth.
Yeah.
I think in our letter, we asked some specific things, but Ms. Kinnaman, do you want to clarify?
Sure. Through the chair to Director Facio, we did indeed receive a letter back from Minister Farnworth. I would just point out that that letter did not make any commitments in terms of what that Emergency Program Act modernization might look like. And I think that it would probably serve the board very well to continue through with the process to bring forward the issue to LMLGA and to UBCM. It's possible that these changes have been contemplated by the province and would become part of it. The intention, and I heard Minister Farnworth on in a media briefing today, indicate that the plan is to still table that legislation this fall. So it may all come in very nicely together in one package, but at this point in time, we don't have any details.
Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman. Other discussion or questions? Director Horn, go ahead.
Through the chair to our directors from Abbotsford, I have to confess that I haven't closely looked at the letter referenced in the very last a portion of the second resolution. And my question is whether or not that letter or any part of what we're sending will speak to the need for a provincial approach to diking as opposed to the current municipal approach that has left so many orphaned and inadequate dikes. I don't know if we have an answer through Ms. Kinnaman or through any of our Abbotsford directors, Mr. Chair.
Well, let's start with Ms. Kinnaman. She's got a green light on.
Sure. The first thing through the chair to Director Horn that I would point out is that unfortunately Abbotsford City Council does not actually had this report presented to them at their own table. The CAO has shared the proposed resolution. It is not my understanding that it's very specific to diking and orphan diking, but more generally about building back better and 100% infrastructure funding. We've been working very closely with LMLGA as well as the city of Abbotsford so that we can give them that support. I have not yet drafted the letter of support, but certainly it would help boost it at the LMLGA table as well as at UBCM.
Thank you. I'll leave my comments for now, but at the end of this, I think I would like to propose essentially, not in terribly wordy ways, a simple third resolution that we would ask staff to create in that area. But for now, I'll leave it as it is.
Okay. Other discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chair,
Director Engar, yeah.
if I may, Director Engar.
Go ahead.
Somebody-
Director.
Sorry, you cut off. You ready to hear from me?
Yeah, go ahead, Director Engar. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Don't want to muddy the water here, and I think it's a succinct request to the province that we're making. The only thing that really struck me is in my area particularly, I have a number of homes that are uninhabitable and yet they don't qualify for the DFA evidently. So in this last paragraph in the letter, and I'm going to quote it quickly, the ongoing recovery work across the province has identified a number of areas where the existing rules and criteria, including the compensation cap for DFA, may be still leaving a number of gaps and needs. Staff are working on options for government consideration around these issues, including looking at the programs in the other provinces such as Alberta. So that's near and dear to my heart. And again, I don't want to muddy the water with this good resolution that we have in front of us, but I'm hoping at some point we can perhaps broaden the request to not just DFA because people are slipping through the cracks with the existing DFA. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Engar. Other questions or discussion? And Director Engar, it didn't muddy the water, and maybe I just imagined this, but I thought we had a discussion specifically about a letter that was to go out under my signature about your area. And we discussed it and the board passed that last board meeting.
Yeah, yes, I think you're right. You're right, Chair, and I really appreciate that. But I don't know if it really addressed, I'd have to go back and review it myself. I don't know if it really addressed the fact that the DFA was not going to be workable for these folks. So I'll revisit that with staff and take it from there. But I do appreciate the support I received last time.
Yeah, thank you, Director Anger. Okay, don't see any other discussion. Back to you, Director Horn.
Well, I'll just call the question. I suggest, Mr. Chair, we call the question on this. I'll ask a question after this, if we could, before we move on to 7.2.
Sure.
It'll still be under this subject area, but as Director Engar said, I don't want to muddy the water.
Okay, on the motion then, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries. Director Horn, you have
So
another
a
question?
question to you, Mr. Chair, to staff, and that is about the deadline for producing resolutions. I realize we're probably up against it. I don't want to do something on the fly here. So I'll let the staff answer that, Mr. Chair.
Through the chair to Director Horn, the deadline is March the 3rd. So these were the two resolutions that we felt confident that we could get enough material together in order to meet the LMLGA deadline. That does not mean that we could not go straight to UBCM with a resolution and or request ministry meetings with representatives of the Fraser Valley Regional District to talk about specific items such as diking.
With that in mind, Mr. Chair, I wonder if I could make a motion here that simply we ask staff to draft a resolution for consideration at UBCM advocating for a provincial program to improve diking. And I've written that down to pass on to staff. I'm not asking for the specific resolution tonight, but that staff would produce something that comes back to us at a future meeting for UBCM.
Okay, and is there a seconder on that item? Yeah, it's been seconded. Discussion? Director Horn?
No,
Any more?
Nope, I think that's everything.
Anybody else? We're good? Oh, sorry, Director Facio.
Oh, no, sorry,
There you
Mr.
are.
Chairman. No, I support this. No, I'm just one clarification. This motion that we just passed is going through LMLGA. Is that
It is.
correct?
Yeah.
And Director Horn is now proposing that one should go directly to UBCM because of the deadline situation. Is that?
I think that's what I heard. I think,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, the board wouldn't have an opportunity to consider it prior to the deadline. So, yeah. Good. Okay. We're ready for the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries.
Next
next
item
item.
is 7.2, which is board chair, board vice chair, and CAO attendance at 2022 annual conferences. There's a motion for your consideration.
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Pranger. Discussion. Did you have your light on for comment, Ms. Kinnaman? No, you're
No,
good.
just to keep us going on the meeting.
Keep it,
Chair.
okay, perfect. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
7.3, we have electoral area directors attendance at 2022 annual conferences.
Thank you. I need a mover and a seconder. It's moved by Director Adamson, seconded by Director Engard. Discussion. Don't see any. We're okay. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
7.4, we have the FVRD board appointments to SXTA and Cape Sea Treaty Table.
Thank you.
Moved.
It's moved by Director Facio and seconded by Director Popov. Discussion. Don't see any. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
7.5, we have the FVRD board appointment to the Metro Vancouver Indigenous Relations Committee.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Ross, seconded by Director Adamson. Discussion. Don't see any. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
8.1, we have a 2022 grant and aid request for the Columbia Valley Ratepayers Association in Electoral Area H.
Thank
Move
you.
Dixon. Move Dixon.
Moved by Director Dixon and
Engar.
seconded by Director Engar. Discussion.
Dan, have you been following what's going on in Ukraine and stuff?
Don't hear any, at least any on this item, I don't think. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
8.2, we have COVID-19 Safe Restart Grant Funds, grant and aid for Columbia Valley Ratepayers Association and Electoral Area H.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Dixon, seconded by Director Clute. Discussion.
Dixon.
Go ahead.
Just happy to support both of these because they've had no rental. So repairing things like gazebos that are falling down was a bit of a challenge. So they fixed it all up and they're ready to rent out the Columbia Valley Hall for weddings and family gatherings, things like that. So be great to see that.
Thank you, Director Dixon. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
8.3 is another 2022 grant and aid request for the Hemlock Valley Homeowners Association in Electoral Area C.
Thank you. Mover and a seconder on this item.
Adamson.
It's moved by Director Adamson, seconded by Director Bales. Discussion?
No.
No, you're good. Okay. Any other questions? Don't see anyone. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
9.1 is the Fraser Valley Regional District 2021 to 2025 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1651.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do first reading. Motion number 1 is moved by Director Facio, second by Director Blue. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Second and third reading. It's moved by Director Stobart, second by Director Mercer. Discussion? None, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. And motion number 3 is moved by Director Shahal, seconded by Director Dickey. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
9.2, we have the Fraser Valley Regional District North Bend Sewer System Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 1650.
Thank you. Again, 3 motions. So first readings moved by Director Dixon. Did I see your hand there? Seconded by Director Adamson. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Second and third, it's moved by Director Stobart, seconded by Director Dickey. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. And adoptions moved by Director Bales, seconded by Director Hamilton. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
9.3 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Water Supply Systems Regulations Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 1647.
Thank you. This is EAs. So
Move Adamson.
first readings moved by Director Adamson, seconded by Director Dixon. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Second and third. Moved by Director Dickey, seconded by Director Stobart. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. And adoption is moved by Director Adamson, seconded by Director Engar. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
Item 10 is permits, and I believe you have a script in front of you, Chair Lum.
Thank you. Pursuant to Part 14, Division 9 of the Local Government Act, this is the opportunity for the FVRD Board to hear from the public regarding the development variance permit listed on the agenda for this meeting. Anyone who believes that their interests are affected by the proposed application will be given an opportunity to speak. If you have any verbal comments with respect to this permit and you are joining us by Zoom on a computer or smart device, I'd ask that you please press the raise hand function. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be asked to unmute yourself. If you're joining us on Zoom by phone, please press *9, and this will notify staff that you wish to speak. When you are prompted to unmute yourself, please press *6. Those of you wishing to speak are asked to begin your presentation by providing your name and address, which will be recorded and form part of the official record. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes and confine your remarks to the application at hand. Ms. Kinnaman.
Item 10.1 is Development Variance Permit 2021-18 to vary the maximum allowable size for a 1,224 square foot shop at 10325 Carricks Road in Electoral Area D.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this item? Ms.
Chair Lum,
Kinnaman.
I've been advised that there is no one on the line and we have no one here in the boardroom this evening.
So you're telling me I'm talking to myself. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Perhaps.
Okay. There is no one wishing to speak on this item. Directors, or sorry, this is EAs. What's your pleasure? It's moved by Director Dickey, seconded by Director Adamson. Discussion? Doesn't look like any. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
Next item is 10.2, which is temporary use permit for staff accommodation at Sasquatch Mountain Resort, 20955 Hemlock Valley Road in Electoral Area C. And I would just note to the board that the motion for consideration is a referral back to staff. We would still need to do public consultation and bring this back at a future meeting.
Okay, and there's still no one on the line that wishes to speak to this. We did get some correspondence on this from the Bearzone group today. Did we not?
That's
Okay.
correct, Chair Lum.
And that doesn't change the
That
motion
doesn't
that we're
change
considering?
the recommendation to refer back to staff.
Okay. And this is EAs again. Do we have a mover and a seconder on the motion?
I'll move Vanguard.
Okay.
Second.
Sorry. Okay, perfect. It's moved by Director Adamson, seconded by Director Bales. Discussion?
Could we be referred back to staff? They are gonna host Director Barisan next month to discuss this matter.
Yep, that's the motion that's before
Yeah.
us, Director Bales. Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll get, this will be referred back and there's going to be some more consultation done.
Yep.
Great. Any other discussion? Ready for the question? EAs, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
11.1 is Agricultural Land Commission application for a non-farm use in the Agricultural Land Reserve at 53395 Yale Road in Electoral Area D. And again, just noting that the motion for consideration is a referral back to staff.
Thank you. EAs?
Move Adamson.
Moved by-
Second Dixon.
Seconded by Richard Dixon. Discussion? Don't hear or see any hands, so call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
11.2 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Transit Services update on the FBX expansion, next ride, and electronic fare collection. It's an information item, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions on this item? I don't hear any. You're all containing your excitement. All the good news. This is very good news. It's been a long time coming. I understand we're going to do some public unveiling with our friends in TransLink coming up soon here. So great to see this going ahead. Don't see any discussion because this is information item only, right? Okay, next item.
11.3 is also an information item. It's Ecom 911 and next generation technology. Again, just bringing the board up to speed on some of the big changes that are mandated and coming our way.
Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman. Questions on this item? Heard a little bit about this and the committee of the whole as well. Don't see any questions from board members. Okay, let's move ahead.
Item 13 is items for information and correspondence. Happy to separate any of those items.
Thank you. Director Horn, would you like to comment on a letter from Mayor Horn?
Yes, the reason I sent this letter to the Fraser Valley Regional District is I think that as we're certainly experiencing in Mission, I suspect we're experiencing across the region, a shortage of building officials and difficulties with retention. The theory behind the letter is that by developing a local program, we'll have more local people who will want to stay here. And so my intention here is to ask the board whether or not we would have a similar letter written and perhaps in partnership in this case with UFV if they're interested to the Building Officials Association of BC.
Thank you for writing that letter.
I'll move that we have such a letter, and if there's a seconder, we'll let staff perhaps through you, Mr. Chair, craft a letter that works for this particular office.
Thank you. And that has been seconded by Director Ross. And any discussion on that request? Sounds very reasonable. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Item carries. Any other discussion or correspondence? Seeing none, let's move ahead.
Item 15 is reports by board directors.
Thank you, directors. Director Ross.
Thank you. So for any board directors that haven't heard yet, the LMLGA conference is going to be in person in Whistler this year. And so we're hoping for a good turnout. I think it's going to be a good conference. And so if you could sign up for the conference soon, that'd be great. We are also accepting nominations for the board executive. There are already a couple of us that will be running. So think about it.
Thank you, Director Ross, and have it on pretty good authority that we may know a person who will be putting her name forward for the president of the LMLGA, and certainly she'll have my support. Director Pranger, go ahead.
Through you to Director Ross, dates for the
Just get here.
LMLGA.
Thank you. I thought I'd mention that. Obviously, I've forgotten it. It's May 3rd to 5th, again in Whistler, BC.
Thank you. Other reports from directors? Director Facio, go ahead.
Just a quick word, Mr. Chairman, I'm glad I was able to wear a suit again and come out and see real faces, because I'm having to go to the eye specialist to get different glasses now because of this Zoom situation. This is a pleasure, to be perfectly honest. But one good bit of news for Harrison is that our tourism announced that they received a grant for $1 million. They're going to build a new tourism office and Sasquatch Museum, much bigger, the same location. So that's starting this summer, take about a year to build. And the temporary office will be on Lillooet for the information. So that's a good grant from them. And that we are going to go ahead with the Canada Day Parade this year. First time since 2019. So that's good news. Any other events, I'm not sure because they arrange our events, but it's good news. It's a pleasure to be here. Also, no disrespect to you folks on Zoom. Nice to see you. Nice to see you nice. They used to be an English expression from a comedian. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Facio. Other reports from board directors. Director Horn.
Well, I'm happy to report that after approximately 4 years of working through land negotiations, TFO approvals, and procurement, as of Family Day, the sewer force main moving across to the James Plant in Abbotsford did in fact cross the river. The Eagle has landed, and it's one of the biggest infrastructure projects. It's the biggest infrastructure project ever undertaken by the city of Mission. And for a very short while, we got to actually see it. It'll be underground and out of mind very soon, but it was a landmark event. And as I've mentioned before, I think we will, out of that, hopefully have a bit of a test case for those communities that have been interested in dredging in the future as well. So I think it went very smoothly, and from an environmental standpoint as well. So I look forward to giving a further update when we're all buttoned up and being able to talk about what we might have learned as a region and advocating for dredging in these portions of the river.
Thank you, Director Horn. Congratulations. Other reports from board directors? Anyone online that make sure I'm not missing anyone? Nope, don't see any. Ms. Kinnaman?
So the next item is public question period for items relevant to the agenda. I'll just check with our corporate officer to make sure we didn't pick up some viewers along the way.
We have no one in person, no one online, and we have not received any letters this evening.
So looking for a resolution to close the meeting, Chair Lum.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Facio
Second,
and
Adamson.
by Director Adamson. All in favor, opposed if any, and we'll take a